Okay, so we're going to do an install of this on this. Here you go. Here's the part number. So I got the street one, and the reason for that is so it'll mount off the alternator stand on the back there. All right. Originally I was going to use one like this, and I actually started to mount it up, and then I realized because of the height here, you're not going to be able to go under to the linkage. It would not clear. Basically, it would have to come and somehow do some funky little curve, which you'll notice is what this one does here. It's got the nice little boom boom. So that should hopefully make it a little more easier to set up on a tall manifold setup. So, all right, back to it. No, my fingernails are not that sharp. I got a knife. Alright, right away, one of the first things you notice is, let me open this up. It actually comes with the tap, and I know this from using this linkage before in the past. It's so if you are going to shorten it down, the threads they put in there only go so long. If you need to shorten it for like a high compression motor or a narrow motor, so you can just retap it, put them back in. That's great. That helps. Awesome. Otherwise, telling me, hey, you got to go buy this tap now if you're going to make a change. That would suck. All right. Back at it. Better look at it. There's your hardware. There's your linkage. There's your stand. It's got a bearing set up on it, pivots. So I'm going to have to remove these guys back here. And that basically sits on top of that and brings it to the center. Might have to do some clearancing because of the case right there is pretty thick, but no big deal. That's kind of anticipated. All right, let's get to it. I am so happy it came with these little guys. Super light, aluminum. Because I'm going to assume maybe those go underneath it, probably. I don't know. I'll have to measure, see if that's what that is. Otherwise, asking me to remove the studs in here and put longer ones, oh, that's annoying. I assume those fit in there. Yep, they do. All right, so I'm going to assume the other washer goes underneath there. If I'm using the word assume a lot, it's because I did not see. Maybe it was hidden underneath the tab. No instructions. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm figuring it out as I go. So with that on, I did remove the little dust washer, which goes behind it normally. The main reason for that is to give me more threads because, unfortunately, there's not a partition, I guess you would say, a support for the spring, a return spring on this. So I can use the original one that came on the car, but I'm going to have to grind this guy off. And then when I do, I'm going to have to physically bend this outward. So not just be parallel this way. It needs to come out a little bit because if I don't, the linkage arm that's going to connect to here, it would end up hitting that. So if I bend it out a little bit and then have the spring go up to here, I'll have to go through my little spring stash and figure that out. Now I know everybody's going to say, oh, well, if you buy this from this guy or this from that guy, but that doesn't help me. Ground it off. Just used a little grinder. I know this will have to be powder coated, but then I just tap it and you can see it's already breaking it loose. So hopefully that'll just pop out. I don't want to touch it. It's kind of hot. Oh, yeah, maybe too hot. Let me grab some water. Oops, I pushed the wrong button, but there you go. So it starts out that way, and then you grind it, so it pops it out the other side now. Okay, so I ground that guy. Now let's just tap it. You can already see the circles there. Bam. Just unscrew this guy just a little bit. Take the bite off of it. Come on. There you go. It's hot. Take my punch, put it right over it, and then I'm going to use the phone to hit it. Just here. Bam. But definitely still hot. Not going to touch. There's the little tip part. So, all right. I know, not entertaining at all, huh? Need some special effects, maybe, or something. Don't go underneath there. So there's my thought installed, and you can see I put a little bend in it. And then that's going to allow it to miss the linkage arm, basically. Hopefully. I might have to bend it some more. Now I just need to get a good spring. Okay, so that one's installed. I'm doing this one first because I figure it's the hard one. It's a little goofy with the curve and all that. I get it. It's going around and everything like that, but I don't know. Your parallels, I'm a static type person, and your parallels are just not going to match up. Everything's going to be in these funky angles and whatever. All right, let's do the easy stuff. Okay, I had to speak too soon because here's where the tap comes into play. Houston, we have a problem. Yes, if I put this guy, line this guy up with that hole, and then go to this side, you can see they're not even close. So I'm going to have to cut that shorter, and then there's where the tap comes into play. So I'm going to have to retap it. Make sure I cut the right end, because I'm sure it's a right-hand tap, not a left-hand tap. All right. Fun. And then I move this more, which now it does not line up with there, so I'm going to have to unbend this a little bit, because my fulcrum point here, basically, this part here was, I had it set up there, which is obviously not going to give it enough throw. The further you have this way, the more distance of throw or your fulcrum point increases. So, all right, which you can see the angle that you end up with at the base now. So, all right, so I'm going to do this rod first, and then I'll straighten this rod out a little bit in order for it to reach, because it's drastically short, even if I hang out the heims. All right. I hope. Well, we'll think about it. What would have been really cool, right about this area, maybe this area, a QR code. You scan, and then that would have your instructions, your video on how to do this. Now, obviously, I could probably go to the website, and they might have it on there, but it would have been cool if it was right here, or a piece of paper, a little card in here, information on how to do QR codes and stuff like that. That would have been great. I'd be watching that video right now. My theory was if I got the JC straight, because it's already on there, then that would make this in the correct location and this guy in the correct location, but it does not, because if I take this, if I can grab it and pull it back, and I'm going until I get full throttle, well, you can see you're pulling through the shroud going this way. You would start to get to a point where you're just pulling the linkage. You'd be trying to pull this off of the stand. I was hoping that was it, but no. Well, you can see I got it straight. Just in order for me to get this guy, it goes beyond center, basically. If I get that right to the point where it's just about ready to touch, but that's that way. That's not going to work. All right, back to drawing board. So I hope this little cap pops off. I assume it does. I don't want to mess it up with a screwdriver or something. Maybe I get it from the bottom or something. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, so might say I did a no-no, but I think I did right. So I put a bend in it, so it's going to get it parallel now. I didn't like the fact that when it was straight, it's basically, you know, obviously this point's lower than this point up here, and I didn't like the angle it was going to be at, because I think it was going to bind on this guy. I would have to shim up to allow the heim joint to pivot on there. I think it would run into the linkage itself. Just out of curiosity, I thought it would, so I went ahead and bent this guy, as you can see, and that guy's there, and that's going to bring it up there. Just going to basically make it parallel there. It's not as extreme as that guy, but doing what I need to do. Okay, so I got this where I think it needs to be, and the way I'm also determining that, if you look through the hole that's here to pinch on the cable, the back part of the machining there, if I turn this any more this way, well, that's going to interfere with the cable going back, so I'm going to assume you can't do that, because otherwise the cable would have to go around this little back machining. You see it inside there, little shelf. So, and I went ahead and put a bolt in it. I screwed this out a little bit, so I kind of put the heim in the middle of the adjustment just to give me some margin of error. Okay, so I put the heim in on this side, just kind of slipped it in, tightened it down a little bit. And this is going to tell me where to cut this guy at now. I got my Sharpie in hand. And I'm going to take it and mark it. So I'm going to mark this about the middle of this thread, roughly, which is going to give me some margin of error or margin to adjust basically either direction. All right, let me mark it. Now you can see it where I'm going to cut. And there, I'm going to assume there's no threads. The tap won't reach down there, so I'm going to have to retap that also. Okay, so I cut it. I just cut it with a hacksaw. And then I'm just going to hit it real quick here, and then I got a little deburr tool. I'm going to chamfer the inside just so the tap won't have a problem starting, and then I'm going to hit this outer edge real quick. I'm just using a belt sander.